So, have you ever thought about selling bulk or mystery jewelry lots? Because we talk a lot about how to buy jewelry in bulk and then flip that jewelry for a profit. But what about selling jewelry in bulk? That's what we're going to talk about today, jewelry friends. Hello, my name is Desiree, and yes, I am your jewelry reselling bestie. Today on the podcast, like I said, we're going to dive deep into selling bulk jewelry lots. Because if you saw my video or if you listened to the podcast earlier this year, I talked about the trends for 2025 as it relates to jewelry. And one of those trends is selling jewelry in bulk. It's the bulk to consumer model. So I had a kind of like an idea about this when I was just thinking about my own jewelry reselling business, thinking about my website, thinking about some of the pieces that I'm sourcing, and how I can set myself up for success by making the whole process a little bit more efficient. And I've talked about that as it relates to buying jewelry in bulk, buying bulk inventory for your jewelry reselling business. But what about selling in bulk? I think this is a strategy that we really need to seriously consider. Now, I'm going to go into all of the details about why and how this can work. And if this is something that you're interested in, I think this episode is really going to be enlightening for you. All right, so before we get into that, I like to always remind you to check out our websites, goodgreatfabulous.com, because that is where I sell some of my jewelry pieces. I also have some ebooks and e-guides there for you. Also, jewelryresellerspodcast.com, and over there you can find anything and everything related to the podcast. And I also want to throw this out there too. I never talk about it a lot, but I do have channel memberships enabled on the YouTube channel. And the reason why I am letting you guys know about that is because I have decided to move all of my live stream replays into the replay vault on the channel. So those replays are going to be available to channel members. And also, I'm planning to do some master classes. I'm going to do them here live on YouTube, but the replays will only be available for channel members. So if you want to have access to some of those master classes that I'm going to be doing this fall, you may want to make sure that you are a member. Now, it's not required, and I've made it really affordable, so it's not gonna it's not gonna be anything outrageous. But like I said, I'm just kind of trying to make sure my content is targeted, and I can be as thorough and as I guess, detailed as I want to be. And I think that channel memberships is one of the ways I can do that. All right. So the join button should be in the description down below. If you are interested, if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, all you got to do is head on over to the YouTube channel, which is the Jewelry Resellers Podcast. All right. So let's go ahead and move into today's topic because, like I said, this could be something that I think could really shift your business in a positive way. And it's going to give you some more options. And that's one of my favorite things to talk about is having options as it relates to our business and having options as it relates to how we sell, who we sell to, and where we sell our jewelry pieces. So selling jewelry lots for profit is not a new idea. There's a lot of sellers, especially on eBay, Facebook, Poshmark, Mercari, doing this. But if you haven't considered this, you may want to at least maybe experiment with the idea and see how it works for you. I'm going to give you some tips and some guidelines to help you do this in a way that hopefully will maximize the money you make. All right, so um, I do have I have about 5 pages of notes, and that I like to be, like I said, as detailed as possible. So let's start off by going into the specifics of why we may want to consider selling our jewelry in bulk lots or mystery lots. You can do it however you want, and we'll talk about the pros and cons of each. But if you're like me, and you have a lot of jewelry pieces, and maybe you have some things that aren't worth listing individually, or maybe you have a lot of things that are broken, missing stones, need repair, whatever the case may be, and you don't necessarily want to throw them away. And then maybe you just have things that just haven't sold for a while. We all have those pieces that no matter what we do, we can't seem to sell them to save our life. And so a lot of us have what I like to call stale inventory. And this is a way that we can move those pieces. Now, I'm not saying that you have to, you know, do this where you're going to lose money, but at the very least, it's going to give you an opportunity to make money, in some cases faster, and in some cases a lot easier than if you just had these pieces listed individually. All right, so the other thing is like bulk lots, pretty much of anything, but jewelry too, is really popular right now. I can't tell you how many messages and questions I've gotten about bulk jewelry lots just in general. I mean, obviously, I've done several videos and podcast episodes regarding that topic, but there's still so much more as it relates to bulk lots and mystery lots when it concerns jewelry. Now, mystery lots are popular because people do love the thrill of the hunt. People love the surprise. And it's a lot of fun, too. I mean, I love mystery lots just because you never know what you're going to find. And sometimes it's just a relaxing way to spend an afternoon or an evening, digging through a pile of jewelry. I really enjoy doing that. And a lot of you probably can relate. Now, also, crafters, collectors, resellers like us, we're all buying lots to flip or to repurpose in some way. And so I know there's a lot of jewelry resellers who like to buy jewelry not only for reselling, but they also like to craft and make art and do all kinds of fun things with it. Some people like to upcycle the jewelry and then resell those pieces. So you really have a lot of flexibility when it concerns bulk lots and or mystery lots. All right. So as it relates to bulk lots, though, uh, a lot of resellers want more predictability. They want more transparency and they want to save time and effort. That is the main reason why so many of us are drawn to buying jewelry in bulk, is because it saves us time and effort. We don't want to have to buy jewelry piece by piece. We'd rather buy 10 pieces, 50 pieces, 100 pieces at a time. And so this is a very efficient way to source jewelry. And the other thing, as a reseller selling bulk jewelry, you can have a lot of fun with this too. You can have themed bulk lots. You can sell them in bundles. You can bulk buy uh, the type of jewelry. You can even sell lots based on condition, things like craft only, junk only, wearable. I've done that. I've done really well selling wearable jewelry lots. So again, pretty much you can do it however you want, depending on the type of inventory you're looking to sell. Now, the other benefit about selling jewelry in bulk is that you get to declutter your workspace or your storage space. You may have some things, like I said, that you want to move quickly, and this is an excellent way to do it. All right, so now we're going to talk about where do you buy the jewelry to sell in bulk. Now, like I said, I have done an entire series on how to buy jewelry in bulk. So here's the thing, and it may sound a little bit counterintuitive or counterproductive because you're buying jewelry in bulk and then you're also selling jewelry in bulk. Now, this is a strategy that I have used for years. Don't be afraid to do that. I have also talked about how I source on eBay and whatnot, and then I turn around and sell those same exact jewelry pieces on eBay and whatnot. All right. A lot of us do it. There's no rule saying that you can't. So just remember there's really no limits as it relates to you doing this. Again, you're just going to have to figure out what works for you and what works for your business. All right, so most of the jewelry that I sell or use in bulk lots come from bulk lots. All right, but here is the trick though. When you buy jewelry in bulk, you want to probably have at least these three categories. You want to have pieces that you can sell individually, right? Because sometimes you will have some showstopper pieces in a bulk lot that you do want to sell on its own, and then you also want to have another category of pieces you might want to sell in a curated bulk lot or maybe a themed lot. Now, I do this year round. Probably around September ish, I will start selling my Christmas jewelry pieces. And what I do is I just collect them all year long. Sometimes I list them, but for the most part, I like to sell my Christmas jewelry in bulk lots. That's where I have found works best for me. And so, what I do is I sell all of my Christmas themed jewelry. Usually, it's brooches, and I sell that on its own. But if I get like a Christmas jewelry piece in a bulk lot, I usually just save it so I can sell it in bulk. All right. And then the third category you may want to consider is a mystery lot. Now, mystery lots, I mean, they could work, and sometimes they're a harder sell because most resellers want to see the actual pieces that they're getting. They don't want a horrible surprise. But if you're not selling to other resellers, like just the everyday person who loves jewelry, a lot of them will go for the mystery lots. All right. So make sure that you are aware of exactly who you are selling your jewelry to and who your inventory or your bulk lots are for. Because I know for me as a reseller, I don't like mystery lots because I don't want any surprises. I'd rather see either the pile or the jewelry laid out, like I've talked about, and then I get an idea of what I'm buying. But some people like the thrill of the surprise, and so you can experiment with both and see what type of response you get. Now you can also go thrifting for bulk lots. You can do this with jewelry jars and so forth. I used to be able to do this years ago when it was a little bit easier to source jewelry at the thrift. It has become a little bit more difficult to do that, but you still can. And sometimes you can find individual pieces as well, because I've done that too. My Goodwill sometimes will have jewelry on sale for 99 cents. And a lot of times I will buy a lot of that 99-cent jewelry and then I will lot it up. And then I will sell all of those pieces together in a lot. It's not a mystery lot, but it's just a bulk lot. So you can do that too if your thrift store does have jewelry. And sometimes you can find it at yard sales too. All right, so we talked about the theme lots, and here's some ideas for you that I thought about. You can do all vintage jewelry lots, you can do all earrings, you can do all wearable. That's what I do, and that's what I have had the most success with. You can do junk DIY craft lots, which I have done that too. I do really well with the craft lots on eBay, surprisingly. But my wearable jewelry lots, I do really well on live shows. All right. And you can also do color theme bulk bundles. One year I did a red jewelry. I did a red jewelry show, and then I bundled a lot of the things in there because it was like a Valentine's Day show I was doing, and so I got all of my red jewelry, and people really liked that because it was a curated jewelry lot. So those are just some ideas of how you can do this. You don't have to do it on a live show. You can do it on eBay, Poshmark, Mercari, wherever. And people really like it. People like to get a good deal for their money. And when they're getting multiple pieces of jewelry in, I guess, sales psychology, people think that they're getting more for their money, more for the same price. All right. So also remember this, a little bit of curation can really set you apart from the really horrible cheap looking junk lots that are out there. Now, I'm not calling out anybody, but I know we have all seen those lots where it's just one generic picture, and then the seller will say, "Oh, this is an indicator of the type of jewelry you may get, or this is the jewelry you may get." Right? Like I don't like those. I don't like those because I don't trust them, right? And if I don't trust the listing, then 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to trust the seller and I'm not going to buy from them. All right, so I'm just throwing that out there because our goal is to make the sale, to make sure buyers feel confident shopping with us, buying our jewelry, and we want to do everything we possibly can to give them that feeling that they're making the right call by buying our lots, right? All right, so now let's talk about the presentation. I guess I kind of already started talking about that. So this is, like I said, where transparency is very important because nobody wants a horrible surprise. People like surprises, but they don't want to be surprised in a negative way. So how you photograph your bulk lot is really going to be the deal breaker or the deal maker as it relates to you making that sale. Now, what I like to do is I like to flat lay all of my jewelry pieces out, usually in a light box. Sometimes I don't use the light box, depending on how many pieces I have. I will put it on a tray or I will put it on just a solid color background, flat surface. And what I do is I photograph all of the pieces as much as I can, fit it into one frame, and then if it's brooches or something like that, I will also flip them all over and take photos of the back because resellers are picky. I'm a picky one, and I like to see the jewelry front and back, all angles, different lighting, up close. I want to see it all. So understand that you will have to take really good photos when you are selling in bulk. Now, if you're selling mystery lots, you probably don't have to. You can have the jewelry in a bag, in a pile, in a jar, whatever. But if you're doing bulk lots, my recommendation and where I have had the most sales is laying the jewelry out, taking the time to do that. Now, I don't know if some of you have seen some of those listings on eBay where they have jewelry displays and they have jewelry racks, and it's for bulk lot jewelry, and it's neatly laid out and everything looks really like you're in a store, looking in a at a jewelry display. And it takes time to do that. And I know it's tedious, it's monotonous. You don't want to do it because it takes sometimes hours to set this stuff up, especially if you have hundreds of jewelry pieces that you're selling. But I'm telling you, the effort is well worth it because those are the lots that do sell, and those are the lots that people, will bookmark or they will favorite or they will add to their watch list, whatever, because people do like seeing all of the jewelry. And not only that, but it also looks like the seller cares about the jewelry, because if the jewelry is just thrown in a pile, then I always question, well, is something going to get broken? Is something going to be damaged? Or is something going to get lost? Right? So that's probably the only thing that I don't like about selling bulk jewelry lots is, the setup of photographing it. But I'm telling you, it's worth it if you're willing to put a little time and effort into it and make it as pretty and as neat as you possibly can. I'm telling you, you will make sales. You know, provided that you're describing the jewelry accurately. All right, so think about the presentation, how you're going to sell your bulk jewelry lots. Now, I've also done uh, the Ziploc bags. I've done that for like my craft lots and stuff because I'm not going to take time to lay all that out, especially when it's just broken pieces or whatever. You don't have to get too, picky about that. But my craft lots, I put them in a Ziploc bag. And sometimes I've done like similar jewelry, like I sold a lot of 10 rings and I put those in a little bag, but I did lay them out when I had the listing up. So again, it just depends on what it is. And for the most part, you just want to make it look as best as you can. All right. I have in my notes here, you don't have to spend a lot of money to make it cute. All right. So, next, let's talk about pricing our jewelry lots. All right. So, pricing our jewelry lots. Now, this is definitely going to be something that is individual to you. Again, what you're selling, how many pieces, the condition, the type of jewelry, all of those things factor in to your pricing strategy. So you have to figure out exactly how you're going to price this lot in a way that you still make money and you're not losing money. In some cases, depending on what the inventory is, you may just want to break even, right? Because I have done that where I've had some slow moving pieces or maybe some bad buys and they weren't selling. And I said, you know what, let me just try and get my money back at least so that way I can buy better stuff. So, depending on what exactly it is, that may be your approach as well. All right. So, and remember this too, you don't have to sell huge lots. Like you don't have to sell hundreds of jewelry pieces. You can sell a lot of 6 pieces. You can sell a lot of 10 pieces or 20 pieces. Um, again, it just depends on what you have and what's going to work for you and what you can manage. All right. So if you have, like, and here's the other thing too, I just thought about this. Um, if you're doing bulk lot pricing or bulk lot jewelry lot pricing, it's going to be very different for signed versus unsigned jewelry. Okay, so if the jewelry is unsigned, doesn't necessarily mean it's junk, but it could just be some generic jewelry, which still may be very pretty, but maybe it's just not things that people are looking for. An unsigned jewelry lot tends to sell for lower than a signed jewelry lot. And most people don't put signed pieces in a jewelry lot unless it's like maybe all of the pieces are signed and they're asking, a really nice price for that. So think about that too. Think about, are you going to put your lots, are you going to bundle them together, signed pieces, unsigned pieces? Is it going to be a mix where maybe a few of the pieces are signed? That tends to be the majority of what I see on eBay, where most people kind of do a mix. They'll say, oh, there's some signed pieces in here. Or sometimes they'll all be signed, but they may not necessarily be in the best condition. Okay, so figure out exactly what you want to do, but no matter what you do, don't lose money. All right, price so you don't lose money. At the very least, you want to price so you break even. All right, think about, how can I get the most money for what I'm selling? And again, I've also seen people do this too, where maybe the majority of the pieces are unsigned, but they will throw in 1 or 2 signed pieces because that instantly bumps up the value of the entire lot, right? So that's another strategy you can think about as well. If you have 10 unsigned pieces, maybe throw in a couple of signed pieces so you can say mixed lot, signed and unsigned. All right. As long as you're being totally honest about that, it shouldn't be a problem at all. Now, the other approach you can take to pricing is the number of pieces or the weight. I have seen people sell bulk jewelry by weight. They'll say uh, $9 a pound, whatever, $8 a pound. It just depends on what you got, what type of jewelry. And obviously, you know, uh, metal based jewelry is going to be heavier than non-metal based jewelry. So you got to think about that too if you're going to go by weight, because like there's plastic, there's wood, there's some lightweight jewelry pieces, and so you may get a lot more per pound if you're selling that. But again, it's hard for me to kind of give you just a general answer for this because I don't know what type of bulk lot jewelry you're selling. And you may want to sell it by piece and not by weight, or you may want to sell it by weight and not by piece. I tend to see the by weight do better when it's like a craft or a junk lot, because then you can just throw it all in a bag or a box or whatever. And then you don't have to worry too much about being careful with it. And then most of the time, when the jewelry is a better quality, people will sell them by the number of pieces. So they'll say 20 brooches or 10 necklaces, whatever, whatever they're selling. So think about that. I know there's a lot of there's a lot of things to think about when you're selling jewelry in bulk, but it's a lot of fun. All right. So some of the ideas I have, I wrote in my notes here: 10-piece wearable mystery lot for $25, 1 pound craft lot for $18. That seems kind of high. Maybe I meant to put $8. Or maybe, well, I guess it depends on what it is. A deluxe 25-piece lot for $55. Again, depends on what it is. And then sometimes you can do this too. You can throw in bonus items or freebies. Now, I have done this with really good success. I will say a lot of 10 necklaces plus a freebie, and so they're really getting 11 necklaces. So you can be really creative, how you structure it and how you phrase it. And people get really excited when they're going to get something for free. Now, I usually do this on a live show because I say, hey, everybody who buys today, you're going to get a free pair of earrings, and you can choose whatever earrings you want. But it doesn't have to be done in a live show. You can do that, in a listing too. You can say, hey, here's a lot of 10 necklaces plus a bonus necklace, right? So they're getting something for free. You can also do a bulk brooch lot, 20 or 30 for $50, $60, depending on what the brooches are. You can also do color lots. Like I said, I've talked about that a couple times today. You can do all purple jewelry, all red jewelry, black and white, all gold tone, all silver tone. Those tend to do really well because people like to shop by metals as well. So think about how you want to, put it all together to make it attractive for your buyer. Now, the other thing I also want to throw this out there is make sure you calculate the shipping correctly. Nobody wants any surprises, and you don't want to get burned on the shipping. Make sure you weigh your lots so you have accurate shipping prices in your listing or in your live show. Okay, so it's very important because I've been burned sometimes when I got the weight wrong. And I don't want my buyer to, be surprised when the weight is wrong. Okay, so just make sure that you pay attention to that, because it could be a mess and you don't want to, have to pay extra shipping because you got the weight wrong. So pay attention to that. The other thing you can also do is you can offer tiered pricing or bundle deals to increase how many bundles people buy. I've done this on Poshmark with a lot of success. I remember one show specifically, one woman bought out all of I had jewelry bags and she bought them all. All right. And I told her, well, if you're going to buy them all, I can knock down the price of each bag. And so she bought them all. And it was great. It was wonderful. It was probably one of the best shows I had on Poshmark Live. So think about how you can do that too. Now, I know on eBay, it allows you to offer quantities. So if you have multiple bags of jewelry or multiple bulk lots, you may want to add a quantity. So people may want to buy 2, 3, 4, 5 bags from you. Figure out how you can do that. That's going to depend a lot on the platform you're on. Um, and the thing is, with Poshmark, they just have one flat rate shipping price. So depending on how heavy the jewelry bulk lots are, you may have to charge them additional shipping. All right. And sometimes that could be a mess on Poshmark, and it could be a mess on whatnot too. But it's not not figure outable. You can figure it out. All right. So but remember, just pay attention to the shipping so there's no surprises. All right. So now let's talk about where to sell your jewelry lots. Now, we talk about that a lot here on the podcast. For the majority of people, jewelry resellers sell on eBay, but remember, they're not the only show in town. There's Poshmark, Etsy, whatnot. And here's one that you guys may not have thought about, but Facebook. Yes. Yes, my jewelry friends. Facebook groups are a gold mine sometimes to buy and sell bulk jewelry. All right. So I have sourced on Facebook, I have sold on Facebook, and there are tons of buy sell groups on Facebook. Now, that being said, you're going to have to be really careful because there's also a lot of scammers on Facebook. And a lot of these groups have rules, and some of them also charge you a fee to sell in the groups. So make sure that you are paying attention to the dynamics of selling on Facebook, in Facebook groups specifically. All right. And I've also done a podcast episode with my dear friend Samantha. She runs Vintage Jewelry Addicts. She also has a group on Facebook if you are interested in selling your jewelry in a Facebook group. She runs that group. At least I think she's still running the group, but she's very good about screening the buyers and the sellers. So I don't think I've ever heard anybody having a problem buying or selling in her group. But she does have some rules, and I think she does charge a fee. But if you're interested in that, check out Vintage Jewelry Addicts. She also has a community on District, and I have sold there as well. So you got some options as it relates to where you're going to sell this. Now, you can also sell on social media. That is another way that I have seen people selling these lots. You can sell it on Instagram, YouTube, wherever. All right, so there's a lot of options for you to sell your bulk jewelry lots. But like I said, the majority of resellers I know do sell them on eBay. Okay. Oh, let's talk about mistakes to avoid. All right. So remember, we're coming at this from the vantage point of selling bulk lots. They may be to other resellers, they may not be. All right. So here's some mistakes you want to avoid. Number one, not describing carefully what's in the lot. All right. You don't want to be vague. You don't want to have just a generic listing. You want to be as specific. Now, I'm not saying you have to write a paragraph, but a sentence or two, letting the potential buyer know exactly what they're getting. You know, 30 brooches, signed and unsigned, mixed modern and vintage, gold tone. What are some other things I say? Excellent condition, all wearable, excellent to good condition, all wearable. All right. These are keywords that people are looking for when they want to buy bulk jewelry lots. All right. So make sure you are as clear as possible and communicate directly what the potential buyer is getting and what you are selling. Number two, overselling the value. Don't say that this is a designer signed vintage lot if it's not, because I see a lot of people doing that. A lot of sellers will say vintage and it's not. And that's the thing that irritates me the most. But maybe they don't know any better. Maybe they were lazy. I don't know. But just be as accurate as you possibly can, because you don't want people disappointed. Yes, you want to make the sale, but you don't want to make the sale at the expense of your reputation. Okay. Number three, I already talked about this, underestimating the shipping weight. Remember, we don't want any surprises. We don't want any surprises. Number four, tossing everything in a box or a bag without being careful. This is probably another one of my pet peeves. When I buy a jewelry lot, I don't want it just thrown in a box unless it's a craft lot or a junk lot, then I don't care. But if I buy a lot of wearable pieces, I want them to be cared for. I want them to I want them to be in good condition, right? So be you don't have to go overboard, but just be thoughtful. Just be thoughtful about how you're shipping the jewelry. And the last thing I have here is not tracking what you sold. All right. Because sometimes when you sell in bulk, you forget what you sell. I have had this happen where I had a piece that was listed individually and then I moved it into a bulk lot and then that bulk lot sold. And then I forgot that I sold it in that bulk lot. And then I'm like, oh no, what happened to that piece? What did I do with it? Where did it go? So make sure you pay attention to what you're putting in your bulk lots so that way you don't think that you lost something or you don't forget to delist something or you accidentally sell something twice. You don't want that to happen. All right, so in closing, would I recommend selling jewelry in bulk? Of course I would. Absolutely. Right? I'm all about whatever and however we can make this money, right? And you want to have, like I said, as much flexibility and options as possible as it relates to selling your jewelry. Now, this may not work for you. This may not work for everybody. This may not, be your thing. Maybe you might think it's too much trouble, but it's an option to consider, right? Because some of you have told me very clearly that you don't want to do live shows. And I get it, and that's totally fine. But this is another way to move large quantities of jewelry very quickly by selling them in bulk. All right, so this is an option. This is definitely something that I think we should always keep in our jewelry reseller toolbox. Doesn't mean we have to do this all the time, but at least be comfortable to do it when it makes sense for you. So this is great for resellers with too much inventory, or maybe if they're feeling a little bit of burnout. I've talked about that on the podcast too, because it can be hard to, if you've got hundreds or thousands of jewelry pieces and the thought of listing them one by one is just too overwhelming for you. Well, lot those babies up, bundle those things up, right? And start selling them in, you know, hundreds, 100 piece lots, 50 piece lots, whatever, whatever. Um, this can be a very overwhelming business. I'm not going to say it's not. But remember, we're the ones in control and we're making the decisions. So we don't have to necessarily run our business in a way that overwhelms us. All right. So think about all of the options you have, all the things we talk about here on the podcast as it relates to you making money, moving the jewelry pieces, and then, hitting the goals that you want to hit. You can also clear space, make more money, and selling in bulk is a lot of fun. I really enjoy it and I like seeing the pieces move. I like making those sales. So, whether you go the mystery lot or the traditional bulk bundle lot, there's definitely a demand for jewelry this way. If you're consistent and you package it well and you list it well and you communicate exactly what the buyer is getting, I think you can have a lot of success doing this. All right. So, I think that is all I have on in my notes. So what do you think, jewelry friends? Are mystery or bulk jewelry lots something you want to try? Or have you sold your jewelry in bulk lots? Have you had success? Is it something you recommend? Is it something you would do again? Share your thoughts and your opinions with me in the comments because I would love to, get some feedback and see how this is working or not working for you. Because I think it helps all of us, right? And then we also get some ideas about, well, I might want to try that, or oh, maybe I won't try that. Okay. So, And let me know if you guys, because I could do another, maybe a short video showing how I list the bulk lots if you're curious about how I do that. I don't know if I have any to list. Oh, I might. Um, if you guys are curious about that, let me know and I will do like it won't be a full podcast episode. It will just be like a short video on YouTube. And then I can show you some of the lots that I am putting together and how I'm going to set them up and bundle them and all the things. All right, so that is what I got for you, jewelry friends, in this episode. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. And remember, if you ever have any questions about anything, if there is any way that I can help you uh, do this, please don't hesitate to reach out. All right. So I hope you um, go out and make lots of money. All right. I want to thank you so much for spending this time with me, and I will check in with you again really soon.